Hi there, my name is Lars White. I'm from the Department of Child and Adolescent Psychiatry here at the University of Leipzig in Germany, which is where we collected most of our data of the AMUS project, which focuses on the pathways from maltreatment to childhood psychopathology. We analyzed most of our data together with our collaborators at the University of Siegen, the TU Dresden, and the Max Planck Institute of Psychiatry for this study. So we focused for this research on hair cortisol, which is a relatively new technique capturing the cumulative cortisol secretion over the course of several months. So our study really is the first to use this technique in a larger scale child sample to address the question whether cortisol secretion undergoes changes in the wake of maltreatment, changes that may reflect shifts in allostatic set points and in turn predispose to childhood psychopathology. So of course our work builds on a large variety of previous important studies using salivary techniques and other techniques to measure cortisol. And this work has relatively consistently shown that adversity initially gives rise to a hyperactivation of the HP axis, followed by a hypoactivation as reflected by reduction or a blunting of HP axis activity and reactivity. So here we used hair cortisol, and part of the appeal of using hair cortisol, besides the fact that it captures cortisol secretion over a relatively long period, is that it is relatively robust to the confounders of traditional cortisol assessment techniques, such as circadian rhythmicity, pulsatile secretion of cortisol, as well as situational factors. So moving on to our method and sample, we collected data from 537 children and adolescents for this study, whom we assessed for maltreatment using parent interviews and CPS record analyses if they were available. We also collected parent and teacher reports to assess psychopathology. And I won't go into the control variables, but we assessed quite a number of them as well, which you can find in the paper. So that takes us to our results. What you can see here is a graph showing how cortisol levels develop over age in maltreated versus non-maltreated individuals. So what we did for this analysis, that we determined a region where these two regression lines differ significantly from one another. And this was between 9.5 and 16 years. So in this age range, we saw an average reduction of over 27% in hair cortisol levels among maltreated versus non-maltreated individuals. Now, zoning into the maltreated group, we saw that this effect, this reduction effect, was also dose-dependent in that more chronic maltreatment and a larger number of subtypes led to a greater reduction of hair cortisol. Finally, we also conducted path analyses which showed that hair cortisol acts as a mediator of the effect of maltreatment on externalizing symptoms. So that takes us to our take-home message for this study. What we saw was that from about 9 to 10 years of age, maltreatment gives rise to a gradual and dose-dependent reduction of hair cortisol, which in turn predicted the level of externalizing symptoms. So to us, that really suggests that there may be important switch points in middle childhood for the effect of maltreatment on the neuroendocrine stress systems. And those switch points may be highly relevant also for clinical decision making. So, needless to say, this work would not have been possible without the generous support of my collaborators here in Leipzig and all the collaborators elsewhere in the AMUS project. Also, I'd like to wrap up by wishing you all a happy reading, and I look forward to any responses and feedback via email.